Oh my God, that's incredible.
Look, I put the head
Here at the Wilma Jennings King Caliber Gallery in New York City. I selected water as a theme for the exhibit because of the power of water that is all around us, it's within us, it's a part of life, it's inspiring, it's soothing, it's calm, it's everything that we need it to be. It heals, it cleans, it cooks, it's recreation, it's power, tsunamis, it's dangerous, it's rain, it's everything. And so I wanted to have the artists speak about what inspired them and what aspect and properties of water they liked to be in the show and exhibit. Each artist came up with a gamut of different aspects of water, from the pollution of water to the soothing of water to the goddess of water or goddess of fishes and seas. Different mediums are here, different power. There's one artist that talked about the Middle Passage. Every aspect of water and how it represents the African American culture and people at large. Art, I'm inspired by art because it's so energetic, it's so powerful. I love the spirit of the artist, I love the work, the colors, the movement of the art. Art just has so much to inspire you, to energize you. It's refreshing, it's charging to me. And I like to be around art for that reason. It's the energy that it gives off, it's the colors, it's the memories. It has so much power, and then when you package it with an artist and what they bring to their artwork, it is just overwhelming. So that is why I chose water for all its power, water because it affects everyone, and everyone has something to say about it and offer from it, from dry lands to mountains dripping and to drinking water to pollution, just everything. So everyone is affected by water, everyone can speak on water or have something to say about it and have an opinion about it, and that's what I wanted to get from the artist. I thank you, Sadikisha.
Thank you so much.
Perished and was below the surface, and then now even that is they're not even hallowed grounds anymore because of all the pollution and all of everything that's going on. And so that was pretty much what this was about. And the Gullah, I tried to implement that culture in it because it is my culture. And so people that don't know about it, they don't know that we have the only original Creole in America. And there's just so much that was retained with what we came here with within that culture. And so the next piece, which was entitled Transatlantic Cargo, because they never looked at us as human. We traveled those waters as cargo. And so I went to Fire Island with some friends this summer and collected all of this driftwood. And so when the subject came up, because I was trying to figure out what I would do with it, and so it went into make this crown for this sister. And so I spoke about in this piece about respect, about respecting each other and protecting each other, because that's kind of how we survived, and we kind of have forgotten about that right now. So that's basically what the inspiration was for these two pieces and its relationship to the subject.
Of which I painted are also found objects. These are ordinary kitchen tiles. The small ones are kitchen tiles that you would use for a backsplash over the sink. The larger ones are the same thing, and this is a floor tile, the regular white ceramic tiles. And what I have done is I've used alcohol ink, and I painted upon them with the alcohol ink, which dries very quickly. And this was a new medium for me, so I experimented with it, and all of these images kept coming out that were very interesting to me, that looked like water and water features, so I just kept going with it. I actually experimented with this medium first with some students that I have at the hospital. I started coming out with these really wonderful effects, so I started experimenting with it alone in my studio, and I went nuts. So this is some of the result of that experimentation. I have given them names that pertain to different aspects of water that I have experienced. This particular one here I called Okay, what's the name of this? The Churning Sea. And it reminds me of a view that I saw when I was on a cruise ship, looking out of one of the portholes, and I could see how much water there was, and it was just churning, and it was just so strong and magnificent and just so powerful. So that memory stuck in my head, and when I finished this piece, it reminded me of that image that I saw in the deep, deep ocean water from the back of a cruise ship. Just all this power and all this churning and pulling, and just the magnificence of it all.
My name is Sadikisha Collier, and I'm a multimedia artist primarily known as a printmaker. But I dabble in stained glass. Tranquility to me represents water, because water is so soothing, healing, it promotes wellness, and it's like all the dirt, all the filth that you might have been through, the pain, the sickness, and all the wonderful things that cleansing helps you with. So when I think of tranquility, I think of water. I think of the sun. I think of God shining His light down on us, and His beautiful art, nature. That's what I did. And right now in my life, I've discovered that tranquility is what you give to yourself. Nobody else can give that to you. And so this piece was special in that sense. Cleansing. Cleansing is, for me, I'm a cancer survivor. And when I think about cleansing, and I think 50% of my cure was how you think. And when I think of water and pouring down on me, it's like God, for me, I'm gonna be a little spiritual, you know, but it's like God releasing all His healing powers on my soul, on my body, and giving me peace and cleansing that's just washing away all that dirt, all the filth that the day might have given you, and dealing with today, and just staying cleansed and being thankful, you know. So this one here, during that time, I had a friend, and he would take me up with the fall. I love the fall, you know, because of all the pretty colors, and I used to teach. And I love to collect the leaves, the different colors of the leaves in the fall. So I call this one Fall River. And I usually go up to the Poconos around this time and sit by the water and look at the three trees, or the different colored trees. So that's basically it.
So I am self-taught in terms of mosaics, which is glass on glass. It's done like the floors with grout in between. From there, I went into the traditional form of stained glass, which is the leaded glass which you find in the windows of churches, and copper foil. But now I'm into kiln form fused glass. All this work is done in the kiln. It's fired to a certain temperature, so the glass melts to different degrees. The title of this piece, which was inspired by this show, I did this piece specifically for this show. This is called From the Divine Source. And in a lot of my work, I do a lot of landscape. So this is really not a face, it's a landscape. And what it depicts is the Creator. And from the divine source, this appears to be in space. And as we have just recently learned, that most of the water on this planet came from other places. So this represents the divine source that water is. This particular piece was very difficult to do, to try to get the pieces to attach without melting. So there was a lot involved in this. This was fired about 4 times in order to get this particular effect. The next piece is called Iya Okun, which means Mother Ocean, for lack of a better word. It's a representation of Yemaya, but not specifically, because I work up to pieces. If I'm going to do a piece of Yemaya, there's a few pieces I do beforehand till I get to the real essence of it. But that's what this represents, the ocean spirit, ocean deity that's in control of the water. They're caught up in a lot of thought in their process. So this piece was exactly that. It allowed me just to create without forethought. Again, I had to use a special process in order to keep it from completely melting so that it would have some form and substance. And that piece again, that piece was fired 4 times and also in order to get it so it wouldn't be completely flat. That's basically it.
Bread and butter in the city of New York. I love my city, I love my roots, I love my people, and I thank all of you for attending. This exhibition was quite a wonderful challenge, as well as a welcome challenge. I needed something like water to kind of get me going again. You know how life can kind of get you stagnant and water will constantly move and is always in motion. I began painting at age 5 in kindergarten. And I remember my teachers were always wondering, why is she always at the easel every day? She can play with the dolls, the water table, the blocks, but the easel was pretty much where I wanted to be on a daily basis. And 50 years later, half a century later, I'm grateful that I'm still inspired by the easel and color and line and shape and form. This particular piece is called Still Waters Run Deep. And I'm always inspired by music in my work, particularly jazz, but I also like the Motown stuff and country and gospel, but music has always been very inspirational for me. My dad's favorite song, one of his favorite songs was Still Waters Run Deep. So I felt a need to depict it visually as well as show the depths of water and the ability to actually go deep. So the space was a challenge, color, motion, as well as saying something visually in an abstract form. But I found great joy in creating it, and it was a wonderful experience. The one thing about fine art, you feel fine after you make art, you know? And that's what art does for me. I feel just fine every time I create. Another experience I had with water early on in my life, I collected water, and I didn't know why I was collecting water as a kid. I remember going to school one day with all these different bottles of water, and I think it was around first grade, and my father would help me collect the water from different rivers. If it's the Roanoke River in North Carolina, he risked falling to get a sample. If it was the Chesapeake, I just felt a connection to water, so each little bottle I collected, I would put a label. This water's from North Carolina, this one is from Virginia, and I remember bringing that water collection to school, and folks were like, so what's the big deal? Don't you understand? Water is powerful, it's always in motion, it's the same everywhere, and I would get that confirmation 25 years later from an artist mentor, friend, as well as great inspiration to me as a person. The artist Romeo Bearden once told me during a conversation, he says, whatever you do, Verna, you make sure that you live near water. And I'm like, why? He says, water is always in motion. It's never stagnant. It's always moving. It's powerful. It's everything. And you can draw the energy from water in you, and it will come out in your work. And it made all the sense in the world. And from that moment, I understood why I was so connected to water. It was never still. It was never stagnant. It was never boring. It was always going somewhere. It was always creating a different place, a different time. It goes up, it evaporates. Water is always everywhere. So I was grateful for that wonderful, inspirational words. Really took me a long way, and it continues to drive me. Now, I have 2 other pieces on the opposite. These 2 pieces are, this one's Wash My Sins Away, and this one's Wade in Water. And I was definitely inspired by Alvin Ailey, those wonderful dancers and the movements that they had with the water, and it was just a wonderful challenge, and I feel to have them both here. These are works on paper adhered to canvas, so it was a new direction for me in my work because I wanted the water to feel like it was free. And when I work on paper, I normally mat it and put it behind glass, but this time I kind of did a little research after seeing Matisse's collages on canvas all these years later, looking vibrant and great. I said, I wonder if I could do something like that. So this was a leap for me in the other direction. One of the other things about wash my sins away, imagine water being able to wash everyone's sins away. That's a powerful thing to do because there's a lot of sin in the world. So I was definitely moved by the ability to create something that signified that. And that's it. Thank you.
My ancestral memories started appearing to me when I was a child. My mother would take me with her to the beauty shop, and I would listen to stories of our history. And what inspired me was, Lord have mercy. I didn't really understand these images. These sounds came to me through the men and the women. When I heard the women speak, it was in response to each other. When I heard our men communicate with each other, it was poetry all the time. So as I got older, middle school, the images became more clear to me because I was reading now. I was seeing images of slavery. I was understanding the anger. I was understanding the tears and the pain. Divine Presence chose to show me these images in what we know as collages. My first collage I did at the middle passage was of rice and eggshells. As we go on, I can't get away from those memories. I still hear all of you say, I know what you mean. So as you speak, I get images of what the electricity of water wants to tell us through you. You are who inspires me. You are telling me the stories through the sound of your voice. The electricity of your voice, which is motivated by the water in your system. Our voice was forced on and enticed by A. Philip Randolph, Benjamin Mays. And his main message was for us to stand, to always stand when you don't feel like standing. There's always going to be a group that doesn't understand and want to tear each other down. But is going to make you stand. The water is what Divine Presence has given us is cleansing. We crossed a large body of water. We didn't know where we were going. But we know that the sound of water, along with our voice, reverberates the message of the memories. And so it's not just through a civil rights movement that the passage stops. It's now. Thank you.
I'm the oldest son of Ruth and Edward Sherman. I'm a grandfather, a father. And I've even used that phrase, I'm a photographer. But I think that I am is a profound statement in itself. Matter of fact, I have a memory of a photograph going back to the 30s and 40s when black men were being lynched. And one of the signs that the protesters carried was, "I am a man." Have you seen that? So I am. I've used that phrase, "I am a photographer," but I think more correctly is photography is something that I do, and I've been doing it for a very long time. I've been doing photography since I was 13 years old. I've been a photographer in the United States Marine Corps. In 1965, I started there. I've been a photographer for NYPD. I was Police Commissioner Kelly's photographer. I've done broadcast journalism with NBC. And always, I've been inspired by images that I've seen. And I think that I gravitate to images. I've been inspired by music. I've been inspired by Melba Joyce's music, who's with us here today. Big band music, love it, love it. Matter of fact, I've been inspired by one of our artists, Wilhelmina Grant, not only by her work, but by her passion and the causes that she supports. I've been inspired by Vinnie Burroughs, one of our great actresses who is here with us today. Seeing her perform and hearing her words and being able to have a conversation with her has been inspiring to me. And all of that comes out here. This particular piece was done in Paris. This is a reflection of a building at the Museum of Modern Art in Paris. And what I'm trying to do here from a photographic perspective is showing layers. So here you have the pond, the leaves are on the bottom of the pond, and then the reflection in the water, layers. If any of you have seen some of Joe Overstreet's work, he deals with layers also in some of his work. Gordon Parks, some of his new work in terms of digital prints, layers. And what he does is he does setups and work and shoots through glass. So that's from a technical perspective of what I was seeing when I did this shot. And of course, this is just one of a whole series. Southern California. I think the water speaks for itself, but then what I'm trying to do from a photographic perspective is to hold the detail in the image. Like I said, I started in photography at the age of 13. There was no digital photography at that time. So digital photography has its own challenges, and one of them is to keep highlight detail, because the highlights will get blown out. So what I'm trying to do here is keep detail from this area, show the color here, show the horizon. This particular piece is in the lake in Harlem on 110th Street. So what you have is the algae on the top of the lake. All three of them are part of a series. This particular piece, I'm trying to consciously have it look very graphic. And when I first started exhibiting, I didn't exhibit with photographers. I exhibited with painters and graphic artists. One of them is Emmett Wigglesworth here, who is a member of the We UC Artists. So this is what I'm trying to do in terms of these particular pieces. As far as the show is concerned, the process was looking at a body of my work and editing down to try and come up with images that I think fit the theme. That is what I did for this particular exhibition. When Laurel told me about the theme, the matter of water, I said, wow, that's going to be a hard theme to curate. I think she's done a wonderful job. What do you think? Yeah. Laurel is one of my inspirations. She's an inspiration because of who she is, her spirit, and then in terms of my work, to be able to look at my work and give me critique. Because if you don't show your work, and you've been doing your work for 20 or 30 years and it's in the closet, then I consider that a one-way conversation, a conversation just with yourself. Now, I have had conversations with myself, and I've come up with some answers, but then at a certain point, I have to take it out and share it and get your feedback. And I don't exhibit that much, but I'm continually working. And I thank you so much for viewing my work.
Good evening. My name is Hakeem Mutlaq. I am at on the subject of water, on the matter of water exhibit at the King Collier Gallery in Manhattan, New York. We're discussing, and today there was an artist talk, but now this is a personal interview in regards to my work, two pieces, one of which is called Hydrant Life, which shows particularly children, of course, in the New York City Harlem area, playing and running across the street. The golden area is actually water coming from a hydrant, and the entire spray is created because somebody is using a cardboard box to create this spray out of the hydrant. Something that you would normally see in summertime, but that's now not seen as much because they have put sprinklers on the hydrants in order to conserve the very valuable water that exists. Though water still...
What inspires you in photography?
What inspires me in photography?
To do photography.
I love biology, and people are just multicellular animals, and I use the camera as a microscope. That's what inspires me. So I'm just documenting life as it exists. It's going on all the time, and all the things that we do as people are valuable in terms of being recorded, even the simple things in life, which change consistently. Of course, nothing is staying the same except change, as they say. But the bottom line is that our people are beautiful and we need to be recorded at all times. As I say, my inspiration is basically recording life as it exists. Besides this piece, I have a second piece in the show, and this is called God's Tears. Something that's regularly seen on the planet. In fact, all the water that exists just exists here trapped in a particular cycle. Of course, it's known as the water cycle. And without rain and that continual cycle on the planet of Earth, nothing would exist. Water is extremely valuable to us, as most folks know. They buy water now, which most folks would never think would happen 15, 20 years ago in terms of... Well, now, back 15, 20 years ago, there's always been a deal with water.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Sadikisha show. And I hope it was very informative and that you learned to have a little extra feeling of appreciation for the visual arts. Peace.
Excellent.